Show starts in 1 minute. Good evening, folks, and a hearty welcome to our drive-in theater. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you, one that will provide several hours of pleasurable relaxation and diversion for you and your family.
Like 9 out of 10 film stars, Raquel Welch uses Lux Beauty Soap.
Well, no, I like to be a woman and a man to be a man, you know.
We hope you'll make this a weekly visit. You love the tasty array of snacks we have to offer. Bring your friends. There are always wonderful new pictures to see. We hope you have a wonderful time.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Longhouse. Thank you to everyone who's watching in the chat. I hope you are enjoying the intro we're playing because we're coming up on the end of the year here at a rapid pace, and I'm thinking it's going to be time to retire that intro and make a new one. Bloody Path, how are you doing?
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I'm doing good. It's been a busy week, so it's nice to be back, as always.
Yes, and the snow hasn't helped. With us, we have Theo Kerner from Germany, I believe. Yes?
Hello.
Hello. There's not, I was thinking about that. There's not a lot of Germans floating around our spheres, is there?
Well, there's Consequent Frei, who actually was on the stream. Is he Austrian? Is he German? I can't remember quite.
Well, you have brought that German autism to bear, if you will allow me.
I hope so.
And have told me that you have done an extensive analysis on
experiments and studies.
Right, on our little sparkling water debate, yes. I guess.
Yes.
So we're going to start the stream. I've called the stream Youth Crime, and we're going to get into all that stuff, but we're going to start the stream with your report on this. So why don't you just take it away? If you hit %, I'll bring up your screen.
First of all, thank you for having me on, that I can present this. This actually was meant to be just a joke around coworkers, but I'm also happy to present it to the Longhouse. And why we are talking about water is part of my presentation. Let me share it. There we go. Is it live? I can't see the StreamYard and the presentation at the same time.
Yes, we're good.
Okay, so we're talking about water, but not any kind of water. We're talking about sparkling mineral water. Why are we talking about sparkling mineral water, you might ask yourselves? Well, we have to go back. We have to go back in time. Our dear host and walrus took a trip to an island because there was a conference, the Witten, and I've prepared a little clip here. This is past Longhouse.
Whoops. Well, a bit rusty. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Longhouse, the weekly show for the most sensible of centrists. I'm a little bit under the weather because I thought I made it, but I barely didn't make it out of the Witten 2023 without getting the convention cough. So if I had to mute myself at random points, it's probably just because I'm coughing. Like now. I have tea and herbal remedies, so I think we should be good.
Okay, the Witten. But
you could really hear it in that clip. Sorry.
Yes. But what has the Witten to do with water? Well, let's go back to the island. This island of Britain has a little problem with their water. it looks like this, probably, and tastes like shit. So Walrus actually had to go out and get himself not only toothpaste because he forgot it, but also bought the bottled water because, well, the tap was running this. And if you talk to the Britons, this was a clip on stream, I couldn't find it again, and say, hey, your water tastes like shit, the reaction usually looks like this. We like it that way. Well, let's talk about our contestants today. We have Selters water, traditional German mineral water. We have Perrier, the French are here. San Pellegrino, the declared favorite one of our host. Gerolsteiner, which has become a meme in the internet. I don't know why, but it's German as well. We have Borjomi, a Georgian one. And to go back to the tap water of the Walrus, Voss. So let's have a look at the data.
I actually didn't know Voss made sparkling water. That's
well,
new
they
to me.
actually do. This is you can see it on the marking of the bottle there. They actually do sparkling water. Well, there we are again at the debate about carbonized or non-carbonized water, but we will talk about it briefly when the presentation is almost over. Back to the data. There we have our contestants. And if you look at the data, you can see the San Pellegrino, the gold standard, is pretty well rounded in its ingredients. We have on the bottom fluoride and chloride. I will not get too deep into this, but it will be fine in the mineral water if there's not too much of it. But the others, there's, especially if you look at the Voss or the Zelters, there's a couple of lines missing. And there is an imposter in there. And it has also to do with the rain, because I have added 2 comparison waters. The sound is meant for later.
What's happening?
I'm sorry. The sound was meant for later.
Oh, okay.
I have added Saskia, which is a value brand Lidl mineral water, and just plain old rain. Okay, you might ask yourselves, yeah, that's interesting data, but I can't make out anything. Well, this is where the graphs come in. We have overall minerals in milligrams per liter, and there's the San Pellegrino on the left.
Smashing victory on the minerals.
Smashing victory.
I say without knowing what that means.
Yes. Perrier down a bit. Gerolsteiner a strong second. Zelters down low. Saskia down low. And Voss is actually making the bottom. Even rain has more minerals. But wait, you might think.
So in a way, it doesn't get purer than Voss.
We get to this later.
Okay.
We get to this
Sorry,
later.
I'll stop interrupting.
No. Feel free to talk with me during the presentation. It will be fine. Well, there's a brand missing, and this is our Georgian contestant. And if we add it, well, it looks different.
Holy shit!
Yes. I have marked it out. We are over 6,000 milligrams minerals per liter. And well, the San Pellegrino is now, well, looking pretty normal against it. Well, what does it mean? We look at drinking the water, and let's say you crack open a bottle. Let's say it's a liter, because if you open it, you will probably finish it during like the next hour or so. And then we look at the percentages of daily recommended doses. 1 liter has this many percent of recommended minerals. I've split it up in the different minerals again, not overall minerals, because it does make more sense this way. And if you look at it now, the San Pellegrino and the Borjomi are pretty similar with their mineral profiles, because now the hydrogen bicarbonate is not counted anymore because there's not a recommended daily dose of it. It's different. The Borjomi has a very high sodium content, whereas the San Pellegrino in percent of the daily recommended dose has a very high silica content. And let's go over to the Gerolsteiner, which has 402% of the daily recommended dose of the silica.
So, do you know what the effects of silica is on the body?
Well, silica in itself is dehydrating, but because it's solved in the water, it cannot dehydrate you anymore. It's probably not that bad for you to drink more of it, but the taste profile changes with it. And if you look at the Gerolsteiner memes, which are like they see most of their distribution on TikTok, and I don't use it, so I cannot show you like any clips of people hating on Gerolsteiner. This is also a reason why people don't like Gerolsteiner. It's the distinct silica taste, which separates it from the other mineral waters. But then we look at the minerals of the Borjomi. You see that the sodium content is 77%, and
Right.
this 77% with sodium has something special because the daily recommended dose is also a dose which is unhealthy to go over with. And this is where we continue. The conclusion. Was you can just drink rain. It will have more of your daily recommended minerals. Borjomi, is it a Georgian superwater? It has a very distinct taste because it tastes, it has a salted flavor, but I would not recommend it as a daily mineral water. But it's super it's a good medication if you want to cure a hangover. This is at least my experience with it. Because
why is this better than anything else for curing hangover?
I think because it gives you back a lot of the minerals you lost during the drinking hours.
Because I've heard people say you have to drink. The best thing is like drinking Gatorade, things like that. Maybe
Probably
Borjomi is
it's
something I should look at.
not that bad of an idea, but if I'm hungover, even just a bit, I prefer drinking water to anything like
I
sweet.
agree. Yeah.
And if you look at Gatorade, it has so much sugar. I don't think it's the healthy option.
No, that's what I was thinking as well. People are like, oh, I thought it was just probably the sugar, right? Like, because people are hungover and it feels good to drink the sugary water, right?
I don't agree with it because I don't like it, but I can understand that there are people that might like it. This is also
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, that's why people are saying
try
it.
Curing their hangovers with drinking some alcohol in the next morning, and I'm
That
not one
works
of the
too.
people who can do this. I cannot do it, and I know people. I have friends who, at least in their youth, opened a beer on the next morning just to cure the hangover. I never was able to do it this way.
Yeah. No, me neither.
Well, then let's continue. Gerolsteiner, you wouldn't eat silica, would you? Just don't. You remember
those little snack packets that come with your coats?
Yes, or your shoes.
Right.
It's just not my choice. And then we come to the Perrier. This is where the sound effect actually should have been playing. I don't know what went wrong.
The French song. Yeah.
Probably no. Yeah. It's too French for my taste. Actually, I'm drinking a glass of Perrier right now, and it's pretty average in taste. I prefer not the seltzers. Where are my minerals?
How would you compare the taste and sort of the bubbliness of Perrier to something like Pellegrino or Borjomi?
Okay, let's finish about seltzers because this is what I can talk in the next slide. Seltzers, I think it's just lacking a bit of the minerals, but else it's all right. It's pretty expensive for a water which is all right. Selters has, well, better bubbles than Perrier, but we come to San Pellegrino, the gold standard. I think in taste profile and like mineralness, if you can say it this way, it's the best, and it has the nicest bubbles with the Borjomi together. But I would not recommend the Borjomi as a daily mineral water.
Based. Fucking scientifically proved.
Yes. And now Saskia, well, it's the discounter plastic option. If it would come in a glass bottle, it would be probably, well, if I would rank it, it would be sub Perrier, but not that much below it. It's just discounter mineral water. And this is where we come to the end of my presentation. Stay hydrated, folks. Drink mineral water. It will be better than drinking like sweet pop soda, Coca-Cola, or whatever. And in the end, I will just add my socials a bit. I post shit on Twitter, nothing too serious, mostly doom scrolling and reposting. And I hope you learned something about mineral water.
This has been very enlightening, actually. I think I've gained a new appreciation for mineral water after this. I mean, because I never thought about it as a sort of source of daily mineral intake, to be honest. It's not something that I've ever thought about because I've never had the problem of either mineral deficiency or getting too high of any type of mineral where that's given me an adverse health effect. So I've always considered like people who obsess over minerals as some type of like trilobites or some kind of like prehistoric creatures that lay on the bottom of the ocean trying to to survive off minerals, basically. But I mean, just from like a connoisseur perspective, to know like the mineral content, to understand if you're tasting various like mineral waters and like the reason they're tasting the way they are is because of the various mineral compositions. I did not think of that, actually. And to be honest, most of these mineral waters are probably not even available at my daily grocer. So like Norway just have their own entirely own brands.
And we have our own
mineral
separate
waters,
mineral water monopoly going on. But Pellegrino is one of the few brands who have broken through and are available at stores.
Yeah, I think Pellegrino has at least in Europe and from my travels in the United States as well, there's very high availability all over the globe.
That's interesting.
It's
I'm just happy that my favorite one won.
Yeah, but let's talk about Perrier again and San Pellegrino as well. The both brands, if I remember correctly, are both owned by Nestle. So this probably explains also the high availability and like the logistics chain in distribution as well.
Yeah. To be fair, our water here in general is so pure. I mean, you saw it in the Voss, right?
Yes.
They don't do much to the Voss water. So, I mean, I suppose you could say that there is an argument to be made in order to get those minerals that we should drink something else, but we don't really have any problem getting good water.
Yeah, if we go back to the daily recommended intakes, I actually don't believe that much actually comes from the water. You usually take up a lot of minerals with your food as well. But if you're not eating a lot or something, or I think you told that I don't remember if it was you. It could have been someone else. If you're not feeling right and have a sick stomach or maybe some issues with your bowels, and one have lost a lot of fluids and probably also the content of your bowels as well. It's probably not that bad to remineralize.
Right. Yeah, it's something to keep in mind at least. I'll do that. But I'm going to stay away from the silica water.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not bad for you, but it just doesn't taste as good.
Right. It's interesting though that Pellegrino has such high content of it when I can't really say that I taste it?
Well,
Maybe it's being masked by some of the sodium or
Yeah.
something.
let me. Am I still screen sharing? Because then I will get back to the data.
You're still screen sharing, yes.
Yeah. Let me see. Probably sound effects will play again.
We got a second of it.
Yeah. If you look at it overall, silica overall content is very low in all of the waters if they're even listed, because the daily recommended intake dose is so low. So it actually does not make up that much of the overall minerals, but the percentage is met very early.
Right. Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you so much for the presentation, Theo.
For my autism.
Yeah, this was great.
It's nice to be able to put some hard data to our memes from a couple of weeks ago. So now all of you watching can, go out there and know what you're purchasing when you're purchasing your mineral water. So use this knowledge wisely. And
yeah, I think this chart would be great actually if you want to try to taste what's the difference between like high hydrogen bicarbonate or high sulfate content in a drink, like trying to just basically understand what it tastes like and feels like if that's in there. It might actually be useful for you later.
Yeah, I can probably like export the raw data slides and maybe some of the graphs as well, and just tweet them at.
Yeah, I think that would be great if you just tweet that out and people can go to your Twitter that you linked, and you can tweet it at me as well if you want, and then I'm actually going to do that next time I have the opportunity and just see like what's the difference in taste between the ones I can find.
If you have it available somewhere, I can recommend that you try a bottle of the Borjomi. I now live in a post-Soviet state, and because Georgia also was in the Soviet Union, this was like a high-quality Soviet mineral water and has like still high distribution rates around the states where it was purchased back then as well. So
right. So it's stuck around for a reason, probably.
And as I've told, it has a very mineralic taste. It tastes very healthy, I think. It's not like a bitter bad medicine taste, but it certainly tastes like something that's good for you.
So Henrik in chat says, any Farris enjoyers? Farris is a Norwegian brand, which I despise because their bubbles are too big. Like when you drink it, you just get assaulted with like carbonation. But at the risk of making this entire episode about carbonated water, we have to move on. So I'm going to remove your presentation, but you're going to stick around a bit, Theo, and talk about the elusive criminals that are haunting the inner cities of Norway. Well, the inner city mostly, but it does happen in the districts as well. Because for the last, it's been happening for a while, but it's been sort of very much in the spotlight the past couple of weeks, and it, as it usually does, the state-sponsored channels have an official sort of debate program that runs twice a week, and they have picked this up and have had they devoted an entire episode actually to just talking about the data points with what's called
2 episodes actually.
But they have had one that was just data. It wasn't even a debate, and then they had one which was like this is more a debate episode. So a lot of people are taking this very seriously, and I'm just gonna start this off by just showing you guys some links from the year about what's going on. Let me bring up my screen here, and then I will translate. These articles themselves don't really provide anything we don't know or anything new, so I just want to use them as sort of background for what I'm talking about here. What's usually going on is mass brawling, as it's called, with up to anywhere between like 10 and like 50 people, young kids. I'm assuming men, Mostly, when it's been talked about, it's young boys, men, who are fighting. Sometimes you get reports of girls, but that's usually in smaller like cliques. It's not what this comes across as is bigger factional conflicts than the one with the girls. So here's a report about a mass brawl from July with bricks and the machete, which is the Norwegian weapon of choice, as we all know. And we have another article here.
It's probably for the thick Norwegian jungle you live in.
Exactly, yes. We have an episode that happened, which we'll get to a bit in a moment, which happened during what's called Norway Cup, which is a large soccer football tournament that happens every year for like kids aged, I think it's like 10 to 18 or maybe 20, like the youth teams, etc. And at this field where this was being held, another mass brawl broke out, and it was between 40 and 50 young people, it says here. Weapons were drawn and brought, and this wasn't. This was happening between people who were watching the games. I'm not sure if the police managed to figure out whether or not this was something that was, unrelated, or if this was something like people were there to see their friends, right? And they met someone they didn't like, and it escalated from there. And there are other. Let's see here. It's this one from earlier this year. This is from March this year, which is another brawl. Someone who brought an axe to a tram area and started fighting. And there, I can keep going. There's a lot. There are also been an increase in gang. Sorry, I'm not going to use the word gang. I'm going to say organized crime warfare. These are the organized crime milieus you would actually normally think of, which are motorcycle clubs, Eastern European sort of thief gangs, etc. Right? These are more. These are older, right? These are more organized. These are more international groups. But these aren't the ones we're going to be talking about, because the big one is the massive increase. And while the numbers may be small, there's been a massive increase in youth crime, and they're also getting younger. In 2017, the 14 and 15-year-olds surpassed the amount of sort of criminal activity of the 18-year-olds, which is quite strange because, well, yes, it's kids. It's literally kids. It's like some 14, 15-year-old pulling a knife on you and robbing you in the street, right? It's very surreal. So I'm going to play a clip here, which I prepared from one of these debate shows, because I think it's a very telling little video about where we are in the debate and also what the situation is. Because while the numbers themselves might be smaller, there's only a need for like a critical mass of gangsters, for lack of a better word, before you start having what we call the Swedish conditions, which we've talked about earlier. So let me bring up just this clip that I pulled from this debate show, and I've translated it for you all. I'm going to reject the cookies, please. Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear the audio, and my subtitles should be on. Here we go.
Så hvem de ungdomskriminelle? Da politimesteren I Oslo, Ida Melbo Øystese, fikk dette spørsmålet etter masseslagsmålet på Ekebergsletta I sommer, svarte hun slik.
Konkret, hva slags etnisitet, hvor kommer disse fra I Oslo? De kommer fra ulike bydeler i Oslo, og vi foretok en undersøkelse i fjor som viser at 75% av de som begår gjentatt ungdomskriminalitet, de er født i Norge. Så etnisitet har nok bare noe begrenset betydning akkurat i dette spørsmålet.
Ja, i rapporten.
And that's pretty much all I wanted to show because, first of all, when I saw that clip, I thought, I almost laughed and said, okay, sure, I don't believe you, right? But during this same show, this guy we saw here at the end brings up the stats, right? He says, well, that's not really true, is it? Because one of your own reports say that 77% of youth criminals, and in some cases 86% of youth criminals, are have an immigrant background, meaning that they're either immigrants themselves or they have parents who are immigrants. So they're second or third generations, which then, of course, paints a bit of a different picture. So for any one of you who are listening to this who live in Oslo, I mean, this is your chief of police, so good luck. I don't know how they're going to deal with this if this is their sort of sticking their head in the sand moment. And it's so strange because at this show that I just showed a clip from were multiple politicians who live in Oslo, in various places in Oslo. Some of them have immigrant backgrounds themselves. And what they're all saying is, oh yeah, no, it's immigrants and children of immigrants. That's the problem. They're just running rampant and they have like unstable home lives, and that violence spills out and yada yada yada. The causes I don't really care about right now. But everyone agrees that there are districts and there are types of people in those districts, and these things seem to to happen again and again, right?
Yeah, just for context, for those of you who are not living in Scandinavia, when somebody comes on TV and says the perpetrator was a Norwegian citizen or born in Norway, it's basically a code for brown.
Exactly.
Every
Yes.
time, like everybody knows that's what they mean. So,
Well,
the police chief is either incompetent or incredibly malicious in this, and I think we're nearing the second.
in this case, I don't know how accurate the subtitles for English are, but what I took away from the interview is just like the rhetoric sleight of hand of the police chief, who says, yeah, it's citizenship and ethnicity. In this case, is both the same thing. They're born here, they're Norwegian. It's not ethnicity, and she probably was trained for this interview. For I don't know like normal people who talk like this.
No, she obviously had a sort of line to toe, right? It just sucks that that's the person who's in charge of keeping you safe, right?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I did watch the interview that you sent me, at least, or both of them, and they had another police rep who was talking there, and he basically like said he was pressed at the point, and he basically said that like we're the police department, we don't write the immigration laws. I mean, we can sit and tell you that they're brown or whatever, but it's like we don't we can't change these laws. We just have to deal with whatever fallout comes out of this.
And that's sort of the other part of the debate is that everything's going to shit and everyone's clamoring for more money. That's what they're all saying. The police would be able to handle this if we just had more funds. The youth group centers would be able to handle this if we just had more funds. And the government is saying, well, we don't have any money because we're spending it on bullshit, something, right?
Yeah, I talked to you about this. Yeah. For those of you who recognize all these infamous cartoons by A White Man, that kind of war, resist.com stuff where they have all these remakes, and they put in the Ben Garrison remixes, and you have this like this cartoon of the black guy who's talking about, yeah, we need more money for their programs. We got to help. We need more money for them programs. And like this is basically everybody who's just showing up to shill that like the social workers need more money, or the youth clubs, whatever. Even the
outreach
cops,
programs, and
even the cops need more money for them programs. And they were talking about how, well, we had to expand the police department to do like passports and help Ukrainian refugees and stuff, because that's apparently also something the police does. But
yeah, it's under the umbrella of the police is border patrol, right?
But they've systematically decreased the amount of actual working police officers who do security related things. And I don't know if this is the reason why you're seeing a spike in crime, but it doesn't help. And it's, as if there weren't enough attack angles against the current government. This is also a perfect kind of.
But they have, and they said in one of the other shows, they said that they've done extensive work on mapping a lot of these crime networks, both these unorganized, organized crime groups of the youths, and also the larger organized groups. So they have done extensive managerial work to map these. So it's under control, guys, right?
Well, yeah, I love that part of the interview, actually. I mean, usually when it comes to this kind of resource and more money stuff,
yeah, it's just the gayest, most managerial response is that, well, we've mapped it, and it's like, yeah, I don't care. You're supposed to catch the criminals, not map them.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, I figured like their life is basically like mine. They sit online listening to extremists threatening to murder each other. I do that too, but I'm not saving the world. But I mean, the point is that, I mean, my thought experiment is that, okay, let's hypothetically say that somebody forms a militia or something, right? Just because they feel like the police aren't doing enough. So you have some ethnically Norwegian people who form a nationalist militia.
Oh, that would have been
doing gun training. Well, suddenly I don't think the resources are going to be a problem.
That happened.
This is the moment when they will stop writing reports and probably will actually do something.
Yeah.
No. This happened in my area of the country some years ago. There were this what are they called? Hang on one moment. This sort of motorcycle off group, the Sons of Odin, they call themselves. Do you know that name, Ludwigpath?
Yeah, I remember Sons of Odin, something Raven, something.
Right. So they're like a semi right-wing group, right? And they and this like biker gang. I'm not sure if they're actually a biker gang, but they certainly dress like one. Who did this a couple of years ago? They it was a thing where it was a while. I don't remember what city this was, but there had been a period of these sort of unruly teenagers and things happening at night, and essentially what they did was just like a neighborhood watch thing. They would just walk around. That was their thing. We're just going to walk around, be at the weekends when people are out partying, which is when most of these things happen. We're just going to be where people are, and the police does this to a certain extent too, outside the pubs, and they're usually high streets where the pubs gather, right? And that got cracked down on quite hard. At times it felt like the police was paying more attention to these guys than they were to the other guys, but I can't really speak to the numbers on that. So this has already happened, that whenever someone actually tried to do something, that's unsanctioned police work, so you just got to have to put up with the anarcho tyranny.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've seen how much effort they're putting into cracking down on these types of organizations, or anything that's like remotely sort of ethno-nationalist, right wing. So it's difficult for me to believe that. I mean, we talked about Tore Tvedt and Vigrid, like these organizations with people who were just some people walking around in the woods doing these funky ceremonies or whatever, that got cracked down on. They weren't organized politically or militarily, or they weren't even selling drugs. They had the wrong opinions, and they were doing weird stuff, and they had like 2 cops just like following every member 24/7 or something. It's not hard for them apparently to crack down on these things. And
meanwhile, in the capital, we have like 500 15-year-olds running around dealing drugs, and
imagine how much crime could have been prevented if the police work went into this instead of like following around people.
Well, and I won't get into, because there's probably a weird debate game we can play about what the resources are actually spent on, but it's obvious that it's not working, right? Whatever they're doing, it's not working. And
well, then they have
at this
to do
point,
it
it's
more.
kind of like, well, how many years have you tried doing mappings and outreach? Like, at some point, you're going to have to just be on the street with weapon in hand or something, right?
You have to smash brown skulls. But seriously, that's it's kind of what I want out of the police. I mean, if they're going to, like the only antidote to brown crime is white crime. I mean, it sounds stupid, but it's like that episode of The Shield. If you've seen that show, they have that episode where they're trying to track down some Korean gangsters in Koreatown, right? And it basically, like, all of the kind of quote unquote elders or the people of authority in Koreatown agree that they're not going to give out the names of these gangsters because they really, like, as long as if they have Korean gangsters in Koreatown, they keep out the black gangsters and the Hispanic gangsters. So they want to have basically their own criminals there. And
so what they got to do, they got to reach out to the Eastern Europeans, right?
Well,
and get them to crack down.
You need to regrow. You need to regrow the biker gangs, right? I mean, it's kind of a joke, but not really, because I think one of the reasons that Denmark
I mean,
were able to curb
the stability of the mafia and sort of the weird dynamic that can happen between, like, the police and actually organized crime could be more stable than this, right? Because the problem here is that this is just spilling over, and at some point it's gonna hit like a critical mass where, some gang warfare kills a bunch of people, or they declare like part of the city theirs or something, which I think happened someplace in Sweden, Malmo.
Yeah, this is the Swedish nightmare, essentially, and the problem is, like, the actual real problem, aside from the sort of people who walk around just worrying about it all the time, is that you're going to get caught up in some crossfire, right? Because it's mostly gang warfare about controlling turf for selling drugs. If you're not selling drugs and you're not involved, you will not be affected by this. And I don't say this as like, well, how does this affect you personally type thing, but just as a matter of fact, for like a normal law-abiding person, if you just kind of stick to the rules and you don't make eye contact with like these gangs of brown hooded teens or whatever, then you're most likely going to be safe. But if it reaches kind of
this was something that one of the I think maybe she was Iranian, one of the politicians who were from these areas, who were brown herself, told a story that she had experienced, which was one of these sort of gangs hunting one guy right at the subway station. This was probably one of the above ground subway stations, and people were just sort of not getting involved, which first of all is to a certain extent very typically Norwegian, but then the other end, she sort of learned the hard way, because she was like, well, I'm an elected representative. I mean, if no one else is going to do something, I'm going to have to at least try, right? So she like yells over to the boys who were harassing this other kid and literally beating him, right? And this kid had to flee onto the subway tracks to get away from them, and he was like, throwing rocks at them, and they were throwing rocks back, etc., etc. And they tell her to fuck off, and she calls the police, right? And the police arrives, and at this point, these guys are starting to harass her because she's being a snitch, right? And she got in trouble with these guys afterwards, apparently, right? They would follow her, to I don't know, I guess intimidate her, right? So even someone quote unquote of their own, right, who's trying to pull them away from this is just failing, right?
Yeah, I don't think
because there's probably just no respect, because it's just not something that has value for this group of people.
The Iranian BBW energy is not enough to make them stop.
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah, no, it's too bad. I mean, generally they don't really care to be told around by women anyway. I guess it's sort of one of the motivating forces, I think, behind some of these 14-year-old cocaine gangs, right? I mean, they probably they don't like being commanded by women. I think that's probably one of their main kind of things, but the snitching stuff was interesting because that was sort of the main focus of that show, is that the idea of that, snitches get stitches culture that has really taken root in Norway, and even among ethnically Norwegian teens, that you're not supposed to talk to cops or whatever, which is interesting. And they're trying to, of course, disclaimer, I don't know anybody in this age range who's involved with this stuff. I don't have any like firsthand experience to actually verify anything. So the stuff that I'm saying is just purely speculative, but it seems to be the same for most of the people. Like, they were not able to reach out to anybody who were actually involved with this to talk about it. I guess that would sort of break with the snitching stuff. But I mean, I'm just wondering sort of how they were able to create the type of culture where it's seen as this kind of status symbol to shut up and not talk to cops in Norway. It seems completely bizarre to me. And sorry, like the only thing I can come up with is like going the Ann Coulter route and just blaming American, Afro-American culture, really, because that's just been on my mind lately. I don't know why, but sometimes you find a certain video on YouTube and you end up with like your recommended feed is just all about you're falling into another rabbit hole in a sense. And the rabbit hole has been like hip hop TikTok, like hip hop shorts, where they talk about like the 90s kind of like NWA rappers and stuff like that, and I'm seeing clips where they bring on people like Ice-T or whatever, like Suge Knight and stuff on like Jimmy Fallon, like these talk shows, and I'm just like sitting wondering, why are you putting people who are like either convicted murderers or just confirmed criminals or pimps on these shows, presenting them like they're like these cool celebrity types?
This should be people who should not be idolized in any way.
No, and that sounds like this sort of very passe, dusty kind of Ann Coulter type point, but I mean, I feel like it's still very relevant. Like, why is the media glorifying these types of people? And if you do that, some of this anti-snitching culture has to be traced back to movies and these kind of like Americanized, glorified gangster culture. I don't know if you have any other theories, but currently that's where my headspace is at.
Yeah, I don't see where else it could come from. And this was something, as you said, that were brought up, that the police said themselves that, the youth of today are influenced by this hustler culture or something they called it, right? And I can't think of, it didn't come from the Norwegian textbook, right? So there's only one place it could have come from. I wanted to bring something up. Yes, here it is, in my bookmarks, because I got this in my feed the other day. Well, it's quite a while now, and I'm sorry this isn't going to be translated. You don't need it to be. Let's see here. So this is a clip from a Twitch streamer called Mystics TV, who got a knife pulled on him in, I don't know where he is in Norway. He's somewhere. He's not in Oslo, probably.
I think that was in Kongsberg, actually.
Okay, interesting.
Which is apparently an insanely unsafe city. Which, I mean, they just keep coming out story after story from this city here, with people like, they had the guy with the bow and arrow massacre, and then there was like the guy who got in the brawl with the police, which had like roots in larger gang environments. Like, I mean, this is just an old mining town with a very rich history, but now it's just like a shithole, apparently, where you just have knife crime and stuff going on at much higher rates than I think most other places, at least if you go by media appearances.
Right. So the thing this guy is saying here, well, I'm just going to play it first.
Jeg kommer og siger, det er min gartning. Hvad fanden sa du? Hvad fanden mener du gang tracksuit min, man? Det er på film, bro. Hvad mener du med?
So this kid here, right? I mean, this guy isn't very old. He's at most like 18, right?
That seems a high estimate for
Yeah, he's
my
probably like
eyes.
16, 15.
It's
If you
very
look at
difficult
his
to say.
his friends, like if you look at his friends, these guys are like, yeah, no, these guys are like 16, right?
Yeah, 16-ish is probably a good bet.
Now, what this guy is saying here, because the way this guy talks, he talks like he's an immigrant, right? He talks, he has this sort of like immigrant street cadence and accent. And this is like the whitest guy ever in this like weird Adidas tracksuit pulling a knife on some dude who's live streaming. And the real thing was just that, considering the culture, like where are they getting this from? Well, I mean, obviously this guy is just channeling another race, right? Spiritually, as Evelyn would say it.
Yeah, I mean, from what I heard, he made some comment about his tracksuit.
Right.
Just perfect.
He's
I thought he
angry
was some
because
kind
he probably called his
yeah.
tracksuit ugly, so now he pulled the knife.
I mean, you go out of your way to wear like a ugly tracksuit, and somebody comments on it, and yeah, of course, he is just looking
All right,
for it. That
sorry,
point.
I have to highlight the common comment of the night, which says integration works. That this
Yeah,
this
it just works
Norwegian
the
man
other
has
way.
It
been-
just
yeah,
works.
it's just the other way. Successful integration. Sorry, Ludwig, I interrupted you.
Well, I don't know what more I was going to say there, but no, I thought he was like some kind of GTA character or something that when he showed up there. But of course, I mean, it's
He
hard
looks like-
to it's hard to tell because I've recently been exposed to a lot of these like live Twitch streamer people, and they do fabricate a lot of the stuff that goes on there just for more views.
that's fair.
But again, I completely buy that this would have been something that would have happened.
This isn't the first time I've
Kongsberg,
heard a white guy talk like that.
I just have this nightmare about having a son and just having him show up to the dinner table sounding like that and just feeling angst and just what am I going to do?
Right.
At this point, I mean, I don't know if it's like enough to move to another place or something. I just imagine that, like being ethnically Norwegian and just having your kid show up talking like that. I'd probably just like stop talking to him, and just disown the kid or something. I mean, I'm not even kidding. That this would have been like existential at that point. But yeah, I'm
that's
probably
true.
What I'm wondering is not really the social aspect of it all, but if we go back to the like police chief and administration and policy game, how far the does not work spiral has Norway actually gone? Because in Germany we currently do more of the stuff that is not working and are discussing like weapon-free zones in trains, train stations, inner cities, because criminals, of course, adhere to the rules. How far has Norway gone in this aspect?
Well, I think we're in the beginning stages of this, really, because we haven't had this scale of problem before. And this is spreading. What I didn't show from one of these debate shows is that they had contacted all the police districts in Norway, and most if not all of them report like a 50, 60 plus increase in youth crime and issues of this sort, and they are not equipped to handle it. So the debate now is, well, what do we do, right? And so far the debate answer has been, give us more money from whatever department or program or whatever you ask, right?
Okay, so basically the whole policy game is just now starting to get spinning, and
Yes,
the
difference
debates
is
are
that
starting to happen.
yes, the difference is that the more traditionally radically right parties, I say radical, but the more traditionally right parties are calling for, we need police on the street, we need more police officers, we need stronger, harsher punishments for these people. If you are a repeat offender, you should be punished harder. This is the language we have to use with these kids. And there are debates back and forth, and it's looking like, considering how fucked up the country has become during the administration that is currently running, which is a center-left coalition, we're going to have at least a center-right after the next election, with presumably these people from the Progress Party who are most gung-ho about this being in power. Whether or not
will the next elections
to
happen
push
soon,
for like,
or
oh,
will
we're
it
just going to
take a little
deport them, right? That's probably not going to happen. But they're at least going to be able to push through some more harsher policies. I presume. We'll see.
Yeah,
the bureaucracy of
in
government
that,
is always gonna probably counteract them in some way.
I mean, in that debate, I was actually positively surprised about Haja Tajik. That's like the immigrant woman who was found in that corruption scandal, right, with the apartments. We did an episode on that. It's probably more than a year ago now, but she's back again, right? She actually said something that I thought was reasonable, which is that, okay, you need to confiscate money from these youth gangs, right? Because they're, a lot of them are, it's likely driven by older people who have an incentive to try to run these kind of cocaine rings and so on, and they're using like younger people to get around police, to get around sentencing, and really to make things difficult for the cops. So I mean, if you can take their money, confiscate their property. I mean, okay, well, we need more money for them programs. Well, you take the money from these drug gangs and you use that to fund these operations. You don't have to just get more like government.
But that's the problem, right? To be able to take the money, we need boots on the ground, right? Because programs and mapping the networks isn't going to get you that money. It isn't going to catch the criminals when they are at the scene of the crime.
It should make it easier, right? I mean, at least if you have like fully maps,
yes,
yeah.
But you need police in the streets to be able to catch them when it's happening, right? That's just the end result here, I think. But the problem is that we don't have the money for more police officers because we're spending all the money on monitoring Russia and allowing Ukrainians to enter the country.
Yeah.
Okay, but are the voices in government now calling if just the police would have representatives of those ethnicities, there would be less crime because
no one's calling for that.
Okay. Well, at least you're a couple more years behind Germany, who are wondering now why they have so many informants for criminal gangs in the police force.
Yeah, I suppose it could be worse, but that's also why it's important to highlight this debate, I think, because this is the beginning of a bit of a crossroads which can go all sorts of ways. And I'm not saying that we should focus on like the harsher punishments, etc., just because I want to punish criminals. I recognize that there are roles for some of these outreach programs, and a lot of people probably are quote unquote saved by them. But as you said, Ludwig Path, if we can stop the crimes, take the money, and then use the money for outreach programs, at least that will help. Isn't that a good way to approach it? You stop the bleeding and then you figure out how to stitch back the wound, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, with some of these things, especially with like when you talk about harsher punishments, you have to kind of go a little bit all in on it. You can't just be a little bit more threatening than you are, right? It's like this Moldbug point with the differences between grape and seduction, right?
But our current government is in no position to enforce that, and I don't even know if the police force is.
Yeah, I don't. With looking at if like they have the female spokesperson or something, if it's become so feminized that they just can't think about solutions, there's probably people working in the police who would like to do stuff like that, or like they talked about all these sort of police candidates that they've trained.
Yeah, that's the thing. Every time you hear about these things, there's like people who, I spoke to police officers, and like every police officer is like, yeah, I wish I was out there catching criminals. I wish I was out there when the crimes happened, right? But we just don't have the funds. That's the thing that always, it comes back to. And, there's a lot of other silly stuff we use money on in this country. We could just use it for the police. It's fine, I guess.
Yeah, again, like if we go back to these, how they've tracked down on motorcycle gangs and all these sort of like far right groups, and you really don't feel like it's that much of a resource problem, really. I mean, if there's political will there, then these things can be solved. Like, I mean, you're
Yeah.
seeing in Sweden now, like they're bringing the army into it. If you really care, you really think it's a big enough issue, then you can, do that. But yeah, I mean, stuff like this does create. It really does create an optics problem for the current government. And like, regardless of who is sitting there, just even though a lot of people aren't personally affected by it, if they get a whiff of like this is going on in their society, that there's
Yeah.
like youth crime and cocaine and stuff, it's I think it scares a lot of boomers. There's
Yeah,
probably a lot
and
of
all of these women, who are in these positions of power, the minister of what is it, the Justice Department or whatever, and the police chief, and you mentioned Hajat Haji. I mean, all of these women are very aware that this is a problem and it's sad, and it's we're going to talk about it until the cows come home, right? But what are we going to do? Like, get someone in there who's going to actually do something about it. That's what's going to shift the or that's sort of the mindset of the people who are looking at this, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, lacking experience, like if there's anything that I could comment on here, I hope that there would be a kind of shift in mentality. Using my own experience as reference, I done courses in social science where I was basically told by the professors that it's like they were trying to explain like the socio political implications of crime and so on, like, and their conclusions was that, well, criminal networks is like they're very sophisticated kind of emergent patterns of behavior where you have a lot of like smaller actors who are selling drugs to each other and trying to subsist on this and all this sort of like victimless crime bullshit stuff. But I mean, sorry, like that narrative is bullshit. Like the James Bond narrative where you have like these big kingpin type people who are making money. That's the truth. That's how it is.
Right.
Like, and a lot of these sociology, dude weed head people have just gotten so lost into this, emergency complex. We need more social work. Like, I hope that can just go the way of the dinosaur. That just has to die out, and just go back to assuming that if something is happening, it's driven by elite people who are running these gangs, people who are very cynical, who are profit motivated, right? And you need that to actually get anything going. You can't have this ecosystem of these kind of hippies who are selling a little bit weed on the side to each other if you don't have the people who are willing to do these large cross-border operations.
Where's the weed
right?
coming from, right?
Yeah, it has to come from somewhere. It's not just like spontaneously generated.
It materializes in the pockets. In the pockets, it just appears.
Yes. So I hope that the people who have been spending all of this time in academia teaching people, like, this can just be rolled back or something. I mean, if you have so many people in the bureaucracies who only believe in this kind of like, well, if it's just like bad government policies or. No, I'm sorry. Like, again, the James Bond stuff is like the truth. That's just how it is. You need to find these leaders and take their stuff and put them in jail. That's how you solve these problems. It's not this kind of like
thanks
outreach
to
is
their
good,
diligent
but
mapping work, it should be easy, right?
Yeah, I think so too. They should probably be able to find these kingpins and arrest them and so on. It is risky, but I think you have to do that if you're gonna get anywhere.
Well,
why they became police officers?
Even if it is risky, this is their job. They have to take the risk.
Well, to be fair, they're not really getting paid the big bucks. So, I would appeal to their their sense of honor, I guess, in saying that I don't know why you became a police officer, but hopefully it was to protect civilians, and putting yourself in danger like this, I guess, is part of it.
You watch Dirty Harry, right? Please, you want to LARP as Dirty Harry. Now is your chance.
Yeah, exactly, right. Just give all the boomer cops a revolver, right?
Oh, I saw that tweet. I laughed so hard.
But that's, I mean, at least, if nothing else, for us millennials and Zoomers, you're taking care of two problems at once. Just let the boomers and the youth groups fight it out in the streets. Jesus Christ.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yes.
Yeah, there's not a lot of opportunities for heroism in this day and age, right? But there has to be a window now for some boomers
wonder if
to,
that's
to
gonna make,
show
like, a
what they're made of.
comeback.
Yeah.
Like, because of probably not, right? Because this wouldn't be allowed sort of in the the Overton window of our spirituality anymore, is those sort of, loose cannon cops movies.
Yeah, I think
there's no room
again,
for that anymore.
that's a
Yeah,
bigger problem
because-
than the gangs themselves, probably in the eyes of the cops, right?
Exactly.
If you look at the European way of policing, there's no longer like a human behind the officer. It's just the corporate identity of the police now.
Mhm. Yeah. It just becomes the organization, the police. You're right. Let's see here. I don't think I have any more links. Theo, is there? I mean, you've shared some experience from Germany. Is there anything else you want to warn us about with this?
I have not not prepared for this. My slides are over, but I can tell you your problem seems to have a straight solution. Don't get caught up in these policy debates, and don't get the circle of non-working things. We just have to try the non-working things harder. If you can avoid this spiral, you might have a chance.
Yeah. Hopefully, someone from the Progress Party is listening, because most likely they're going to be able to make those decisions. Is it next year? Is that the election, Luddick?
Yeah, I think so, actually.
And it's I can't imagine anything other than a center-right coalition winning the next election.
Unimaginable. No, it has to be. Basically, that it's so easy for them. Like, so many people are disgruntled that they're not going to get what they want, but there will be a shift. There's just no way they're going to remain like the current coalition.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's just like my not experience, but from what I've seen, even if you go after the kingpins, there has to be the cultural shift as well, because if you look at, I'm not that familiar with it, so take it maybe with a grain of salt. If you take a look at youth gangs in France, in the banlieues, and I think England as well, even if kingpins pins are gone, there might happen a shift to just like youth gangs that have the violence as all they care about, because there are no more drugs and no money. It's just about like circles of friendships and doing violence together as a thrill, not because it's part of selling drugs or stuff. There has to be a social change as well.
Yeah, it's a bit of both, it seems, in some of these gangs. One is the sort of the cycle of violence that comes from unstable homes. Another is a sort of lust for status, in the sense that, I'm gonna just take things and become the king, right? And the third one is, I guess, just punching yourself to the top, metaphorically. Which all manifest in a lot of these groups, and across countries, and of course across age even, right? That's something that most of Europe is dealing with.
I'm not too familiar with Norway in that regard, but you don't seem to have like that many urban centers where this crime occurs. Is this
No,
right?
that helps. Yeah,
Well,
it's not.
that really helps to keep it down if you actually start implementing change where it matters. And I think like the rural areas are probably fine. There's not something like this happening there.
There are things happening, because what the government has done is, in order to sort of help the integration work, they have placed a lot of immigrants, a lot of asylum seekers all across Norway, into smaller towns. So I think you're seeing the second and third generations effects of those there as well.
Well, fuck.
Yes. So, but what we are sort of avoiding is the Swedish mistake, which is, this city, we're just going to put everyone from this country in city A, right? And then 30 years later, it's like, oh no. So we don't have that problem. The numbers themselves are so much smaller, right? Which is what sort of makes this potentially, I don't want to use the word manageable. I want to say solvable, right?
Yeah, solvable is probably a good word to describe it.
All right, do we want to discuss for like the last 10 minutes, do we want to discuss the real trans rate? Because I went down a rabbit hole after watching Academic Agent's video about calculating the real trans rate. I think I made a mistake in that video when I copied over some of the numbers. I think I flipped around some of the results.
Before we go into it, I have to tell you, you did me dirty with the publication yesterday. I saw, the Walrus is streaming something. Am I late? did I miss it?
No, this was just very impromptu. Like I did it, right? I did all of the calculations and all of the research, and then I figured, well, I've already done 90% of the work. I can just do like a 15-minute recording of my results, right? But what I think the final number was I think is like 0.18% of the population is transgender, and that is an inflated number. If you watch the video, you'll understand why.
I watched it, and I was wondering one thing that was not as clear for me. Maybe I missed it because I walked out of my Wi-Fi range at one point. What are the criteria to legally change the gender in Norway?
Well, that's the thing.
Nothing.
No,
I mean,
that's not quite true.
I think you need to just fill in papers at this point. I mean, if you have these people who you can just say that you want your gender changed, and they have to just update the databases for you, even though it's not. I mean, it has nothing to do with surgeries or anything else. You just say that you want to be a different gender, and you can be that now. It hasn't always been like this, but it's been one of the more recent updates.
I think they updated it in like 2016, 2017 or something. So traditionally it has been more difficult. It has become slightly easier. And as I said, the number since 2016 is 2005 people.
Yeah. How many inhabitants has Norway? Just short of 6 million, I think.
5.4. Yeah.
Number is quite small.
It is. It's very
trans
small.
people per population. Yeah.
And that's sort of the point of the RTR number, is showing how overrepresented this group is in the media and in the news, right? So I encourage anyone who either watched my video or Academic Agent's video to try doing the same for your country, if possible. I found it quite difficult to find some of the numbers. Although once I realized that, as I said in the video, there's a department whose job it is to sort of filter all of this, and they have to make yearly reports, then it got a lot easier. But the work is either ongoing or not very popular, weirdly enough, in the departments that sort of have officials' channels of communication. They don't really want to talk about this stuff, it seems.
But how big is the media presence of trans people in Norway, like in Norwegian language media? Or is it there big as well, or is it just like social media which is full?
Well, let me put it this way: it's very much bigger than than what the real trans rate would suggest, right?
Yeah.
You don't meet a lot of them in real life, but you do hear a lot more about this in the media now than you would meet those people in real life. I think
I have the
commented
impression
on the
that,
video. I have people commenting on the video that they know of like one or two people let me think. I'm probably aware of one person who would be considered transgender. And if someone said on like the comment, like, think about most people are able, what's the number? It's like a number of like how wide a person's network is, and it's like 150 or something. And if you know one person out of 150, you know, that's a very small number when you extrapolate that to the entire population.
Yeah, I mean, with this sort of 6 degrees of separation, you can always find the link to one tranny,
Exactly.
regardless. But I could confirm this
like
with me as well, that I'm aware of
sorry.
one person.
Yeah, and then you're like thinking, okay, of all the people I've ever met in my life, right? It's not like this is your best friend. Probably.
No, I do also imagine that they're very clustered. They're not evenly spread out. If you go to Oslo, you're a lot more likely to...
That's something that my data showed, and even the reports would mention this quote that you know, a lot of people who are transgender, and especially a lot of people who want to or get treatment, which is either surgery or hormone treatment, move to Oslo. So Oslo stats are like twice anything else. So yeah, you're right. They cluster more, right?
Yeah, that's my experience being in Oslo as well. The trans stuff is a little bit more present. That you might run into someone, or I see people have plastered like trans propaganda or something on walls, like posters or flags or something. It's more common there. But I mean, as far as like the presence in media, it's I think it reached a kind of crescendo a couple of years ago, and now it seems to be fading a little bit. I don't know if that's your impression, Walrus. Particularly some
perhaps
parts of like Norwegian state media, like the NRK websites and stuff, they seem to run trans stuff almost all the time, but now it seems to be going out of style a little bit. I don't know why. Maybe it was like the fiasco surrounding Espenester Pirelli.
I think that's had something to do with it, because they've used him, her, whatever, as a bit of a flagship on this, because he sort of lent legitimacy to the movement, because he was, you know, a doctor and was a psychologist and whatever, and could show up for interviews and have, like, you know, Espenester and they would say doctor underneath, right? And when that fell through in the way that it did, and the departments themselves are kind of like, hang on a minute, we can't just start chopping up people's bodies without having to do some research first. Fronting that cause becomes a bit dangerous, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I think it's a momentary retreat. Let's put it like that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that's something that they pick up again or something. I mean, you know, you spend so much time in these DR spaces and you get very fixed ideas about how exactly this is going to go, and that it's just going to get louder and whatever, or it's just going to get more woke. But there are certain things that seem to be phasing out. I mean, you don't get rid of leftism or this kind of annoying, you know, the annoying shit libs are there, but the stuff that the tactics that they're trying to use seem to change with time quite a bit. I mean, now it seems like, you know, it's just a lot more of this Palestine stuff now that's proliferating media.
Yeah, the Muslims have replaced the trans people in media.
They've been usurped on the progressive stack.
Well, only horrors could imagine what the next thing will be.
Well, I know that's a very like 2015 term, but a brown person is above a transgender white person, yes?
I am not that sure.
I mean, on the stack, do you mean like most oppressed or least oppressed?
Yeah.
No, I think like a white tranny is like the more oppressed than a brown straight person.
Yeah, because the brown person still, if he's male, he still has more male privilege.
That's true.
And
if it's a
part
man,
of the patriarchy.
Yeah. That's true, but it's not the men who are being killed in Gaza; it's the women and children. Israel doesn't aim for the men. As far as I understand it, their missiles, they just hit the kids.
Yes, yes.
Well, isn't that their excuse that like the Palestinians are using women and children as human shields?
Yes,
or something?
it works out, right?
We can't, we can't hit the men because they're putting the women in front of them or something.
I don't know. It's
from the Hamas perspective. This will be a hot take. From the Hamas perspective, and they consider themselves to be Muslim. I think nothing that bad is happening because even if the Israelis kill the children and the women, haven't they declared all the dead civilians as martyrs? So they will have the shortcut to heaven, don't they?
I wouldn't be surprised if they have some clauses there for some jihad, like suicide clause or something at all. But yeah, I don't know.
It would be like
no idea.
the moral Muslim reason that their death is bad.
I mean, we're getting into like a Gordian knot of logic here, which is a place I don't want to be.
Yeah, and no more hot takes allowed.
I am taking my stand. You know, I'm doing the classic. I believe everyone in this story should die. That's my stance on the matter. And I think with that,
I really don't have a stance on the topic. It's the Middle East being the Middle East again.
Yeah, exactly. And before we run the risk of falling into a more current thing, I think we should end the stream for today. Thank you so much, Theo Kernu, for coming on and sharing with us the.
I have one last question for all the people living up north. I recently moved countries, and I myself live now quite way more northern than I used to live. What do you actually do in your free time in the winter? It's fucking cold and depressing outside now.
Yeah, no,
and
it's depression.
All the people, all what people recommend to me is, well, you can have alcoholism, sauna, and you wait for the snow, and you can go cross country skiing. Is this everything?
I'm sorry if you were sold something else, Theo. But yes, the winter is a time for skiing and introspection. That's it.
We have good internet speed, so I think that helps. Other than that, I'm not sure. I usually just sleep, so I don't think that much about it. If you have the energy to stay up, then I don't.
I do remember a couple of years ago an episode where we didn't see the. I mean, the people up north are going to like laugh at me, but there was like it was a big hoorah because the sun had been gone for like the sun had been gone for like 1.5 weeks, almost 2 weeks, because there was snow and then there was a bit of rain or something like that, and basically it was just cloudy, and it was dark, right? So when it wasn't cloudy, it was dark because it was the nighttime, which is like 2 p.m. So when the sun finally came back after almost 2 weeks, there was a huge deal in the papers like the sun is coming today. And me and all of my colleagues at the office that I was working at then went out for like 10-15 minutes of sun that was like peeping through the clouds at like a specific angle. We could stand there and just like have bask in the sun for 15 minutes before it went away again.
Enjoy the single sunlight of sun ray of the day.
Exactly. It was like an event. It's like the sun is coming. I don't know. I don't care what you guys are doing. We have to go outside. So, yep. No, it's you stay inside. You do things. You do activities that can be done inside, and you do activities that can be done in the wintertime when there is snow. There's not much more to it. I'm sorry. I hope you stocked up on firewood.
I live in the city and I don't have an oven, so
okay.
Yeah.
You can play black metal, someone says.
But my place actually is temporary. I will find something new in maybe April or yeah.
Right. Foobar201 says, new business idea, can sunlight. Well, it reminds me of, I mean, there are some towns up north who have these like huge mirrors mounted in the mountains that reflect sunlight back down into the town, like in the town square, so people can come there and get some sunlight. So it's already been done to a certain extent. Okay. Theo Kerner, why don't you tell people where they can find you if they're interested in following you on the socials?
Well, at Theo Corner _ on Twitter with OE because umlaut, and well, I've told before, I don't post a lot. I mostly retweet stuff. I retweet a lot of stuff from South Africa because watching that country is politically interesting. I retweet German stuff, and I can give a shout out to people who post much more and much higher quality stuff than I do. The first one is Konsequent Frei, who was on show before, and the second one is Crémieux. He posts data usually, and he's French, but he's French. I don't know. However you see it.
Big downside, but maybe tolerable. I'm going to link all of those people in the chat here on the side. Ludic Path, anything you want to plug?
Yeah, only the usual. Read praxarchy.com.
Praxarchy.com has been redesigned and is now a wonderful sort of dissident right aggregation forum, I guess, where you can read a lot of your favorite content creators' thoughts and musings. So it's very good. It's a very nice way to keep up to date. For myself, of course, there is my Twitter. Follow me there for shit posting. And of course, if you're not subscribed to this channel, please do so. Like, comment, all that stuff. And we'll see you guys next week on... well, not on this channel. Next week, the 9th of November, we'll be doing our digital Longhouse, as I've started calling it in my head, which is the long-awaited crossover episode with the Digital Archipelago, which is Prudentialist and Giant Geo. So probably follow me on the socials for some more info on where that will be. All right. Thank you everyone for watching. Have a good night and a good weekend, and we will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.